Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Lisa's Love and Light. Thank you all for being here today. Happy Friday to you all. Just having a little music in the background for a minute because the topic of discussion today is healing and receiving blessings from God. That's the topic today. I hope you all had a great week, great holiday, and that you had a great Friday. And thank you for being here. Um, I'm trying to do things just a little bit different because healing is can be a variety of topics. Everything that I speak about on this channel has a lot to do with how I healed, etc. But I also give different metaphors. I use different metaphors and stories and etc. Because it's going to resonate with someone. And I want you guys to know that we all have shortcomings. We all have something, flaws. None of us are perfect, you know, but those flaws that we have, those imperfections, we can use those stories to help somebody else, because it may resonate with somebody who might be currently going through something that you went through and you got through it and healed. And you can be a blessing and a testimony to that person and to others. So let's get into this topic of discussion. First, before we do so, I want to talk about briefly my video yesterday where I talked about healing. I had a conversation with someone earlier, and I had to reiterate that healing is not for the person who's been so toxic and abusive and who have probably impact your life in such a negative way that you were trauma bounded or whatever, bonded or whatever the case may be, and it took a lot of work to heal. The forgiveness is for you. And when I say the forgiveness is for you or me, it means that in order for us to remove the bitterness and the hurt and pain from our life, for me, I choose to forgive. And forgive doesn't mean reconciling with these folks. I will never reconcile with these folks. The forgiveness is so that I can walk away, cut off, block, and delete without having a grudge, without bitterness. Because think about it, people, when you're bitter and you're walking around talking about who did what to you, when, and how long ago, and etc., that person win because they got a piece of you. They win. But here's how you win, people, when it comes to the forgiveness. You move on. I wish you well. I forgive you. You move on and live your life and embrace your new beginnings and be happy and be at peace. That's how you win, being at peace and leaving those people who hurt you in the hands of God, leaving them where they are while you go and enjoy your life. And that's what I mean about the forgiveness. It's not to reconcile with these folks. Never. For me, never. But it's for me to let go of the pain, the hurt, the bitterness. Because if I would keep those things we keep those things within, then perhaps God has something through that new door over here. But if you're still harboring grudges and bitterness, you won't see the blessing over here because the outlet for the pain is still within you. And when you let it all go, then it's like Job in the Bible. When he went through everything, he refused to turn his back on God, even though he was down to dirt, nothing. His wife had told him, curse God and die. She was disgusted. They had lost everything. Kids had died. They just one thing after another, like a domino effect. But he refused to do that. And God rewarded him, people, with triple than what he had before. So, and I'm talking, let's go to here, because people say, oh yeah, that's a story in the Bible. Yeah, please. But I am living proof that that can happen, because I was down to zero, nothing, and God brought me back. And when God gives you something after going through some horrific experiences, he blesses you. But what I had to do is forgive, because I was in a place with some things that these folks had done. I could never reconcile. These folks had made some. Let me give you an example. Some of these folks had, for months, been calling cops and filing false reports, saying I was doing stuff that I would never do. I've never done. And it just got to be to the point where, for me, um I can deal with a lot of things, but that in particular, and you know thank God, and God is with me, because it would never go anywhere, because it's not true. None of it is. you know and but they kept doing it and doing it and doing it over and over and over again, with no supporting documentation, trying to entrap me with things or set me up for failure. But divine intervention always takes place, because I'm not in that energy. Because if I was still holding grudges and being bitter, then God couldn't direct me to those new beginnings and new doors, because I would be still in that place where I haven't let go. And I decide to give those tons of bricks, the metaphor I use, give it to God. But in the meantime, for me as well, like I was telling this person before, I don't allow myself too much to be act out of character, because it brings toxicity. And I'm not in a place of toxicity. So I like to do things in a checkmate way. And what I mean by that is like playing chess. And you don't see what's coming until it's too late. Checkmate kind of thing. And then I move on. I don't play games with folks. I don't play with my healing, and I don't play with my vows to God. And when I talk about forgiveness, when these things happen, especially, what really, really helped me is this last situation, dating situation that took place. The deception, how long ago was it? 2 years ago. Someone I was dating for about 7 months. The deception, if I didn't try to heal from that, I could see myself doing something, um, that would not have been good, because that's how bad the deception is. So no matter, and I'm talking from experience, and I left all of it behind. It was difficult, it wasn't easy, because sometimes people do things to us and we don't expect it, and we think we know folks and stuff, and they betray us in ways, that we would never believe. But the things that some of these people were doing was never warranted, like the lies. One thing for me, with vicious lies, calling cops, filing, oh yeah, because you're a person of color and this is how it's going to go down. But what people don't know is that not only am I a person of color, I haven't ever done the things that I was being accused of ever. And I'm also in a place of healing, and I'm also very connected to God. And I made vows to God. And in order to keep those vows, I have to be in a place and upright, And these things that was happening, and it was just because it's trying to ruin my reputation. And so they're in the background trying to make these things stick, even though there's no truth to it. And I went into a deep prayer meditation with God. In order for me to fulfill A, B, C, and D, this tons of bricks, I'm giving them to you and I'm asking you to rectify the matter. And God came through. So what I say, where it says that vengeance is mine, I will repay. For me, I had a hard time for years with that scripture, because we can all say, yeah, I'm gonna get so and so or whatever, but who wants to do something that's going to take away your freedom, take away your job, take away everything that you build up for somebody who's toxic and not worth it? But when God does it, it's a checkmate because there's no coming back from it. And this is what I choose to do. And like I said, and then I wouldn't be able to um, move towards the new things that God have for me. Because all those things are the old things. And remember, people, that I always talk about situations, circumstances, people, and these things come into your life for a reason, a season, a lifetime, or a lesson. And sometimes people are not meant to stay. So when they have to go, open the door and let them. And I had to learn that, and I wasn't learning it, but I finally got the lessons. And I'm not going to jeopardize anything. I just go into a deep prayer. And because of the vows I make, God answers my prayers very quickly. Because if I can't do, what's the word I'm looking for? If I can't fulfill my vows because A, B, C, and D is happening, God is definitely going to come through on my behalf, you know, and unless I'm doing something that I shouldn't be. And, we all fall short, but I'm talking about not nothing like what I was being accused of, you know, um, just lies, maliciousness. And I understand, because when I was talking to someone earlier, and I understand, how this person felt about things that happened to them and how you can be better. Believe me, I've been there for a long time. But when I let go and threw the ton of bricks, actually gave them to God, it was a relief because it took a lot of work to carry those bricks. I was weighed down, and I didn't want to be weighed down anymore because of somebody else's, you know, problems. Because when people have problems like that, they try to make their problems your problems, and I refuse to. These burdens belong to you; they don't belong to me. So here I'm returning it, or I'm giving them to God, and He's going to return it to you because it belongs to you, kind of thing. So when I talk about forgiveness, it is for ourselves so that we can take the load and the tons of bricks off our back, give it back to where it belongs, so that we can redirect the focus back on us. And then as we heal through the pain, through the outlet, and the work, then we can move towards our new beginnings, open up better doors. Because some of those doors in the past are lessons, and they're not meant to stay in our life. And once you look at things from that mindset, it doesn't it doesn't hit the same as it would if you didn't see it that way. So that's what I meant by forgiveness, not reconciling with these folks. For me, I would never do it. I don't care what they say to me. So I just wanted to explain that part about the forgiveness, because sometimes people may not understand exactly, you know, what I mean by that. So I just explained that. So let's get into this topic of discussion: healing and receiving blessings from God. I want to tell you guys a real life story about a woman, and this happened maybe about 7 years ago or so. Um, she was praying to God. She had all types of um, problems in her life and issues and things, and really extreme toxic people around her. And she started praying to God, asking Him, begging Him to help her and send a blessing her way to help her so that she can remove herself from these negative and toxic situations where she couldn't find the strength herself to remove herself from those things. And finally, one day God answered her prayer. And sometimes when God answers our prayer, I know for me in the past, it's like, yes, God, I prayed for that, but it's like, why, what's that? When we start doing things like that, what's that? I asked for, you know, this particular thing, but I didn't ask for it in this way. We have to understand that God doesn't have the same mindset as humans. He will give us a blessing, but it may not be in a shape or form that we think it should be, you know? And this woman saw the blessing. She did see the blessing, received the blessing. It didn't come in a shape or form maybe she thought it did. And recognized it. Thank God for it. But Lord, started abusing the blessing that God had brought into her life because the people around her, the toxic individuals around her, could not see the blessing that was bestowed upon her by God. Because this cannot be a blessing. What is this? And the reason why they were doing that, folks, is because they were judging the book by its cover without reading the pages within. And we all have fallen short of doing that. Let me give you another illustration about that, an example. Say you're in college and you're taking a class. Let's say, I can't even describe what kind of class. Let's say you're taking a class that you really love, and the professor walks in, and maybe he doesn't match or doesn't look the part that everybody think he should look. Maybe he looks too young, or maybe he doesn't fit whatever. Maybe it's literature or something, and he doesn't seem like he fits in this position. When you start to just say, okay, let me see what this is about, you may be in for a rude awakening, a very pleasant surprise. I've been in situations when I was in college where I said, wow, this guy, and this professor turned out to be everything that the class needed, everything that we needed, So sometimes when you judge a book by its cover, you may be missing a blessing that God is putting in your life. And this is what this woman did. She accepted the blessing for a little while, showed gratitude, but was distracted by the family and people that she had around her who didn't want her to have this blessing, telling her it's not really a blessing from God. This can't be. Another example, for those who've seen the movie Samson, I don't know how many of you watched that, but I've watched that several times. And the part that always get to me is when the Israelites were bitching and moaning. Why would God send someone like Samson to deliver us from Egypt? I mean, deliver us from the Philistines. Wrong story, thinking about Moses. But why would God use somebody like Samson to deliver us from his Philistines? He's a womanizer, you know, he won't marry his own kind. He's got to go outside and look for somebody. And they were just bitching and moaning and bitching and moaning. But Samson was that blessing. And throughout the movie, it showed, because when Samson defeated 1,000 Philistines, and he did fulfill his purpose. And the thing about it is that he was being talked about left and right because they didn't see the blessing within him. And sometimes, we can do that and miss our blessings. And this woman gave in and caved in to the pressures of family and toxic individuals that was around her. And this person was put there to uplift her, to pray, to help her out of these toxic situations. And she started to abuse the blessing and then shun the blessing. And she went back and forth with this for a while, in and out, round and about, back and forth, until one day the blessing was gone permanently. And she lives in regret. And not only live in regret, but regress back to a pattern of severe toxicity that she had prayed her way out, asking God to make a blessing for her. But he sent that blessing to her just because other people didn't recognize, and it's not their blessing, it's not for them to recognize. She was supposed to embrace the blessing, get, the help that she need so that she can remove herself from the toxic situations that she was in. And what happened is that she fell not only back into those situations, but she fell even deeper into it, to the point like being in quicksand where she felt like there was no way out. And when she prayed again and again to God, the blessing never returned, because it was there for a while, back and forth, but one day it's gone. And I'm telling this story to you guys because we should never judge a book by its cover. Otherwise, we can miss the blessing and not receive another blessing for a while. It kind of reminds me of the movie called Pastor Brown. I think I've talked about this probably a while back, a couple of videos back. And what it is with Pastor Brown, hold on, looking for my water, is that he was a pastor that had two daughters. A wife had passed away years before. He was a pastor of a church, um, had a great reputation, but he had a daughter who strayed from the church and went her own way. I don't want to tell you guys too much. All I can tell you is that you can find it on Prime Video if you want to watch it. And after he passed away, I'm going to tell you this much. Before he passed away, he had a meeting with the church, the deacon and other people in the church who was helping to run things. And they just knew for sure that the man who was working for him, I think the deacon was definitely going to become the new pastor. He wanted this particular daughter. And this daughter had been doing everything under the sun, working in strip clubs, doing everything, etc. But when you watch the movie, you're going to see why. And she turned everything around. But I don't want to get into it in case you guys want to watch it. But that movie touched my soul, because what it shows me, that God will take the broken down, busted and disgusted person, the forgotten, the discarded individual. He looks at our heart. He looks at things from a different perspective and will take that person and use them. You know why, guys? Because that person can help somebody else who is currently in that situation, because they've already been there, done that. And they are living proof that you can be an overcomer. You don't have to stay stuck in dirt, stagnated in toxicity. That God, and in my case, I, just so low to the ground that I didn't think couldn't get up. But God has risen me from dirt, from nothing. and brought me to a place to help other people and to talk about it and how I get through it, and always, giving God the praise, and letting people know that if I can get through all of these things that I've gone through, because I'm talking about them piece, bit by bit, little bit at a time, because there was so much darkness and pain that no regular person without having God in the equation could ever get through it. But when we don't give up on ourselves and we put God in the equation and we ask Him sincerely and we're in the upright, God will send us help. And sometimes the help may not come in a shape or form that we think it should, but we should never refuse it. Because if we refuse the help, then we could be refusing a blessing that God is sending our way to help us out of a certain circumstance or situation that we may be currently in and we need help to get out. We can miss our blessing that way. So it's important for us not to just, dismiss it. Never judge a book by its cover if you haven't read the pages within. Because, like I said, you could be missing a blessing, So let us, when we pray and ask God for something, let us be open to receive and stay in a place of humility. It's so easy to fall back into the toxicity with other folks if we don't start to put ourselves first and to heal all the things that we've gone through. It's important to have uplifting friends and individuals around us to motivate us and for us to take care of our physical and mental health. Never give up on yourself and always choose love and light, because listen, the world is spinning mostly on darkness and misery. And we don't have to be in that energy. We don't have to stay there, for sure. So, guys, continue to show up here on a daily basis. I talk about things and then I talk about healing. And it's not easy. In the first place is therapy, starting with a therapist who can help us, because that's an outlet for the pain. And then as we do the therapy, we can find other creative ways to release the pain. Music. If you have a friend to talk to, they can't change your circumstances, but they can definitely support you and be there and help you through your circumstances. Find creative ways to uplift yourself and to keep yourself in taking care of your physical and mental health. Because without that, people, you can't take care of anybody else around you or anything else around you. That is so important. And if people choose not to understand that, then it's important to set boundaries. Very important to set boundaries, because your healing is everything. And then as you start to heal, you will feel that inner peace. And once you've experienced inner peace, you're no longer bothered by the noise around you and what people are talking about on a toxicity level, because you're at a place of peace instead of being broken down into pieces. That's the message today, guys. Have a great weekend. I'll be back Monday with a new message. Subscribe to the channel. Share these videos with other people, especially those who need to hear these messages, because we're on this channel uplifting and reaching more people to help them so that they can heal. Let's pay it forward. Let's keep this going, guys. Thank you for being here. This is Lisa, shedding love and light. Have a great weekend, guys, and I'll see you on Monday. Thank you, and bye for now.